This week on Stay Out of My Fridge.
Terrible Mondays make great Fridays, you know? Like, you have to get through the terrible crap to make the good days matter. Content creators is not a job that you would want to do forever.
Baby, come back.
So, I mean, it stirred so many questions of, is this morally right? Would I want to do that with myself? It's not that much time, but it is time consuming.
Yep.
And you have to eat. Everybody's kind of got to find that value. Is it worth the squeeze in their own life?
Knock, who's there? It's the podcast you adore. Stay out of my fridge. We're back, ready to explore. Got a tale to tell, gonna make you laugh, gonna make you smile. So buckle up tight, it's gonna be a wild ride. We're diving deep into your fridge where secrets hide. The mysteries of leftovers, the wonders inside. From moldy sandwiches to ancient yogurt jars, we cover the truth with no holds barred. Stay out of my fridge, it's time to raid. We're bringing the laughs, no need to be afraid. Lock up your midnight snacks, stash them away, get ready for the fun. Let's seize the day, hooray!
Back one of these episodes, we're going to have three of us. But either way, the voice you're hearing, it's me. It's Matt. I'm joined by Brandon J. McDermott. My favorite voice in the entire internet. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Fucking love it. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, bud? You doing well?
So,
you are too?
Yeah, doing pretty well. You know, time of the recording's a little bit different, which is cool. And I'm wearing a fancy festive shirt because I had to go take prom pictures with the oldest. And that is an interesting thing when you're a little bit older. You have daughters and prom, and I like the way that this school does it. I don't know how your school did it, not to have a whole conversation about prom because we are way too old, but when we went to prom, it was you went to prom was over, and then there was prom parties, and that's just how it was, whether it was in a field with a bonfire, having some beverages, pretty, uneventful for the most part. We were all fairly smart to have a ride, and parents, then were like, hey, don't drive stupid, we'll come and get you. Like, not that they condone underage drinking, but underage drinking does happen. What I like that this school does is they have an overnight party. So you go to prom, then they bus you to the school, then you're there till 4:00 in the morning. That way, kids don't be kids and do stupid shit. I like that. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it's good. I think anyway, people, schools, parents, administration are trying to keep kids safe. I think is good. Kids are, I hate these phrases we use, but kids are going to be kids. Kids are going to find a way to do stuff they shouldn't be doing and learn the hard way, some more than others. But anyway, that can happen. I mean, you want prom to be memorable, but you don't want it to be memorable for all the wrong reasons. So I think it's good.
Yeah, no, I thought it was cool. They had metal detectors, which this day and age, preventing something stupid. But yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting thing, and it was a different school that I had never been to, obviously. And I don't know. I like the way that they did it. So props to them. And we were at a track and field event earlier, and it was somebody else's, a different school's prom, and this kid had showed up, him and his girlfriend, in the tux or suit, whatever. The girl's in her dress in the middle of the track event. Dude takes off his suit like Superman. He's got his track attire on, goes and runs a race, puts the suit back on, and away to prom they go. No way a guy like me and you could do that. No. I was sitting in the stands watching these runners, sweating, because, of course, it was like 75 here, which feels like 100, with our weather, sweating. And I'm like, these poor, how in the hell could that kid do it? But I guess if you run all the time, it's not so bad.
No, and that's track and field you're talking?
Yeah.
See, no. I actually a couple days ago did some announcing for some children's track and field, like junior level, like 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. And it was like 70 degrees out, and I'm in the press box, and I'm like, oh my God, if it were 5 degrees hotter, I would be dying in a press box. Much less these kids on the field running miles and shit. Man,
yeah, not me.
Life has changed.
The oldest daughter's boyfriend, we were talking. He's like, "How many times do you think you could make it around?" I was like, "Whew, I mean, if you're not timing me, probably a couple of times. But I said, if I run around 4 times, I'd probably throw up. He's like, that's like 2 miles. I'm like, yeah, I'm throwing up. And I saw some people, like, they run so hard, then they're puking. I'm like, that doesn't look fun to me. Doesn't go up. Props to them. Props to them. They're doing something. Man.
Did I, it's not related to track.
That's okay.
Did I ever tell you the story about when I was a cross-country runner?
It's not ringing a bell.
Well, you've seen me in real life, and so you're like, there ain't no way this fat fucker ever ran cross-country. So my cross-country experience, career, lasted this long. Heard there was going to be some tryouts for cross country in 7th grade, and I was like, cool, I'm going to try a new sport. It's awesome. Dad won't let me play football. I'm going to do cross country. Showed up for cross country, and we went to a school that had like a hill that was like, I mean, this hill was probably about 2 or 3 stories high. Ooh. Difference between the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill, you know, like,
yeah.
And it was pretty steep. And so you had to run around the hill, down around the bottom, up the hill. And that was one loop. And I'm like, fuck this. We start at the top of the hill and get ready, get set, go. We start running. I get to the bottom of the hill and I just was like, you know what, fuck this. And I walked home. That was my half a fucking down the hill. I was like, wait, there's no goal to this? There's not a ball involved? I can't score points? No.
I can't hit anybody?
Nope. Not happening.
No. But the shot put, that could have been the thing. I was impressed with the high jump. Like, I feel like that could be the most electric event at this thing. Like, again, I had some buddies that ran. They ran very successful. They ran very fast, all that stuff. Like, all right, cool. That's impressive. Watching these people jump like 5, 6, whatever, how many feet in the air and do the whole like over. I'm like, that is impressive. Like, I used to do it on Nintendo. Remember the trackpad? Yeah, like, and I was tired as hell. And then it's like, okay, then you put it on your leg and then you're like, AB.
Did you ever, well, we used to cheat instead of actually running on that trackpad, we'd get on all fours and we just tap it with our hands.
I've done that move as well. I mean, you can only run a couple of times and the technology wasn't there. I feel like you thought the faster you ran, it would move. And it was just like, you could probably sit there and tippy toe and it would be just as good. Like, it wasn't that good, but
it was about fun. Consistently hitting each side. Yeah. So,
anyway. Yeah. Wow, man, the good old days Nintendo. But you probably didn't catch last week, but we officially renamed the show that we're on, and we probably should have welcomed the people. It's not the Beard Laws podcast anymore. It's a Stay Out of My Fridge podcast.
Really?
We did it. We did it. Thanks to you. Thanks to you, Ben, and some other people that we went and did it. And, of course, Euban has a couple of interesting segments that he potentially wants to bring in. Obviously, something is going to involve the meat drawer. Not exactly sure how that's going to play. There's a lot of jokes about playing with spoiled. There's a lot of cool things that I think are going to come from it. And we usually talk food. We usually talk whatever else. We even came up with a new song that we can play at the end. But yeah, Stay Out of My Fridge. We did it. It's official. This is the 3rd episode of it. But we're going to continue with the episode 2, whatever, because I don't feel like starting over.
Sounds like I missed a very important episode last week.
It is, and we also, I also mentioned that I was going to try, and I've mentioned it, I was on a podcast the other day, and we got talking about audiobooks, and one of my favorite books that I've never read was your book, and how that I had to see if you were still potentially going to do an audiobook for your book. I was told I had to ask you, and I know it's going to be way too much work, but I had to ask. It was promised.
It'll be a lot of work, that's for sure. I wouldn't want to edit it myself.
No.
So, like, if I could find somebody who would be willing to do it for a reasonable price of me just raw dogging my audiobook, just sending them raw audio, basically having them edit it, then I would do it. But I don't see the value in it for me to sell 3 copies. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep. But it's like for me, I've started jumping into the audio world, and like even Bert Kreischer, you know what I mean? Like, he's got the book, and then all of a sudden he's reading the book, and then he just goes on a tangent, and it feels podcasty, but still an audiobook. Segura, I've listened to that one. Steve-O from Jackass had it, but I didn't love that because it wasn't his voice.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
You
as
know what I
good.
mean? So it wasn't as cool. But then when they kind of did the parts where it's like, hey, here's Pontius, then they had a different voice that was Pontius, and they had a different voice that was Knoxville, a different voice that was like quotes from, all the boys. And I was like, I could
You
have
know,
read it. I have it, but
two things, and I think this is going to spur a conversation. But how interesting is it going to be in the future when you get an audiobook and you can have that audiobook read to you by an AI version of fill in the blank? Because
yeah,
we have so much. I mean, you can create a voice of me, you can create a voice of you based on our videos online, even,
yep,
and your our podcasts and stuff. You can create a. So how cool would it be to create the memoir of FDR or a biography of him or something in his voice based on his speeches? And so, I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been speeches online of other, and I'm not going to name them for clear reasons, but historic foreign leaders, some despicable from the 20th century, who've had their speeches translated from their native language into English,
yeah,
and the voice stays the same. It's mind-boggling, and the technology is
yes,
only getting better is what I'm getting at.
yeah.
So that's going to be cool.
Yep. I did hear that, and it was wild to me because like everybody was like, "Oh, said leader was angry and maybe the speech was super angry." And then they listened to how it translated in English and it was like, "Huh, it's actually really well spoken and it wasn't that angry." Like he was just kind of leading and being, and it was like puts it in a different perspective. Not saying that said leader is a good person. We're not saying that if you're putting, 6 and 4 together to make 10.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Definitely still despicable.
very
Evil.
much so. Very much so. Yep. Actions do speak louder than words, they say. And that is definitely the case there. But
I want to say something, though, in the same vein. There was a story and a segment I did on my radio show
mm-hmm.
about AI, specifically about, and this is a real thing. I don't have the story pulled up or anything right now, but there's a company in Europe, and a guy has already done it to where he is, I don't know if he was terminal or something like that, but he's going to die. And he has paid like $10,000 to $15,000 for this company to create an AI version of himself. And basically, this AI program asked
Mm-hmm.
him, like, over a 3-week period, so many questions to kind of like not just get his voice, but to get his personality, to
Yep.
get how he would respond to certain things, how he would say. And it's going to be him after he goes for his family. So, I mean, it stirred so many questions of, is this morally right? Um, would I want to do that with myself, or would I want to do that with, um, like, I'd love to see my grandpa again, even if it was an AI version of him,
Wouldn't that be cool?
Right. Now, I don't know if I would want me to be going on in that way. There's better to burn out than to fade away, as they say. People are going to get really annoyed by me. We asked him,
Yeah.
we asked him about chicken nuggets, and he said a racial slur. Well, listen, that would never happen. But I'm just saying, like, bugs are there, right?
Yep. So I actually heard about this a while ago in a conversation with William Shatner.
Okay.
He has been working with a company, and I forget, somebody interviewed him, and he has been working with a company doing the same thing. And they said that whatever he's asked and the things that come out are only things that were said by him, that it's not able to create. Like they ask almost every single combination, and this, I know you said a couple of weeks or month, but like they've been working with him for years, I
Yeah.
guess, or at least a year, to ask every single thing that they think that can come up. And the way that it works is AI cannot change or make up. It has to be something that was said in some kind of context. So like you said, you can't say something racial about chicken nuggets or something, you know what I mean? Like it has to be from him. And it's, I think, don't quote me on this, but I almost think it was going to be like a hologram type thing of him, because they record the facial features, everything. So it'll be almost like having a conversation, but obviously being William Shatner, it's not just a family thing, it's fans and anybody else. Like it's going to be a thing. And they also went on this big thing about, you know, how cemeteries shouldn't be cemeteries because it takes up so much ground that could be used for this and that, it's a big push to be put into trees. And there's a special way that they can put you into trees. And I don't know, that kind of part, it faded out for me, the interest of it. But Still an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I think everybody wants. I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago, just a very existential thing, and of course, being 38 years old, I'm approaching middle age very quickly if I haven't surpassed it already.
I hear you, brother.
What are the things that we want in our life? Well, we want to be loved. We want to feel loved. We don't want to be alone. And we want to know that what we do matters and that our life mattered and that either where are we going when we die or am I going to leave a mark? Am I going to leave an impact on people's lives? So we want to know that we matter and that what we do matters and that what we are doing has an impact on people. And I think this is to the heart of it, It's not quite as bad as billionaire uses the blood of young children to IV every day to get younger. It's not like that. It's not trying to live forever and not die, but it's trying to make sure that your life can have meaning and perhaps allow, they're not going to be able to hug me, but if they can see a hologram of me and talk to me and I can console them in my normal voice and tell me everything's going to be okay,
Yeah, I mean, there's always moments where you need somebody advice, and you just one more time want to be like, "Hey, like you mentioned earlier, man, I'd love to have a conversation with either of my grandfathers. Just one more." It's like you say one more, but then you're going to get greedy, and you're going to want another one and another one. But an interesting thing though with that is being a content creator. Stuff that you do, that you say, is going to probably be around on the internet, searchable, findable for probably ever as well. You know what I mean? It's not like it's just going to fade out unless the internet gets
just wait till what we're doing now is no longer considered fab in trendy cool. Yep. Where it's like, look what these losers were doing. Just wait.
Oh, I figured that for a while and already.
Right. But I mean, I had a brain fart just now, but I had this interesting thought in my head about this. But maybe it'll come back to me. I'm guessing.
It might come back, baby, come back. But yeah, it's wild. I mean, like I said, a lot of people are leaving impressions for good or worse, depending how you look at it. And kids are going to be able to search it anyways.
I don't care what you believe. Not you, Matt. I mean, of course, I don't care what you believe.
Yeah, but you believe.
What the viewer watching in or the listener on this is thinking. I don't care what you believe, where you're going, what your religion is or isn't, but I do find it kind of calming, soothing, comforting to know that we aren't going to be here forever. There are days where I grow weary and tired and certainly not, thinking of like welcoming it, but just that if it happens, hey man, it happens. I've lived a good life and I hope that I've made an impact on people's lives. And, if I were to have to be here forever, I would not want that. It's the idea that terrible Mondays make great Fridays, like you have to get through the terrible crap to make the good days matter. But if your life was filled with the existential dread that this is going, we're really existential today, but the idea that like C.S. Lewis said, was it C.S. Lewis or was it Shakespeare? I think it was Shakespeare. Every man must endure his going hence. Our thing that we endure in our lives that is just so tough is that we are not here forever.
Yeah.
That we have to endure the idea that we are finite and that there are only so many breaths, so many smiles, so many pizzas I can eat, that this is going to one day be gone. Yeah. And so, but I think there's something comforting in that. There's something as you get older, I think generally folks kind of get a little more okay with it. I mean, that's why you look at most old folks who still have meaning, who still, have relationships with their children, who still have friends and still get out and do things in the community. They're not isolated and stuff like that because that's never good. But no. They're generally jovial and happy and okay with the way things are going, even though they're in their worst shape of their life. Not because they're doing anything terrible, but because their body is failing them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm okay with the way things go. I know that was a diatribe.
No, and it's stuff that I think about a lot. You know what I mean? And I think what's even worse though for me is the little time I do spend on social media, maybe it's just the algorithms and maybe, AI is starting to really get to me. But you got all these people that are just like, you only live once, live the moment, quit your day job, do this, do this. And that I think is really messing with some minds. Like, would all of us like to be able to just not work and just do whatever and just camp and go for those hikes and do whatever and just all the time? Well, yeah. But at the same point, people rely on us. You know what I mean? The wives, the kids, they need things. And then, not only that, but we have, as parents, we have our responsibility to kind of set the precedent and show them and lead by example, and you can't just, I don't know.
Content creators is not a job that you would want to do forever. I mean, it is so, there is no, I don't want to say there's no meaning in it, but it's respectfully, and I don't mean this as in any kind of like negative way to any good content creators or to myself but it's meaningless. There's nothing here that means anything. It's all empty.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that is in us, to your point, that is primordial. That is like going back to the caves of working with our hands, of creating something. It doesn't have to be being a ditch digger or being somebody who's, building homes or, doing actually something that's building, but there's something in us that where we need to find value in what we're doing. And we need a job. And, whatever that job is, it can be being a mother or father or whatever, but we need to know that what we're doing matters and that what we're creating is something that's tangible that I can say, hey, that's mine. And when we become content creators, we get so enamored with views and is this as funny as my first one? And I started here and now my views are down here and I'm not doing as good and everybody's going to judge me and blah, blah, blah. We have to let go of that stuff. And that's not a place to live. We've talked 100 times over, you and I, on the show and otherwise, of people are quitting day jobs and people are, I know guys who probably 5, 6, 7, 10 times bigger accounts than I do on big social media platforms that are now going back to those jobs. That are now and are depressed and sad and they don't look happy. And take your lessons from other people's lives as much as you can so you don't have to go through those things yourself.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the
when
world.
did I become such a sage, by the way? When did this happen?
Right. It must be the beverages and the time that we're
It
recording.
is.
But I mean, you have to, we kind of hinted on it before we press record. I mean, lots of big businesses, whether it was Facebook, Instagram, and all this stuff. I mean, but look at Instagram. They don't pay creators anything anymore. They found that it wasn't adding benefits with that short form content to do stuff, And I mean, there was a time, and thankfully it was a very short lived time where I almost felt like I had to keep up with content, that I had to. And it was very stressful. And I know, like, you spent a lot of time creating, scheduling, and stuff, and you kind of have it down to a science. And I don't think it feels like work for you anymore. You know what I mean? But there had been many times in my life where I'm like, man, I have to do this. Or when the shows were live, I have to be live every Tuesday, Thursday at this time. And it's like, I'm addicted to podcasting. Every time I have a conversation on a mic, whether it's with you and Euban or any of the other shows that I do, like, I genuinely fucking love it. The editing process. The only thing I don't like is having to post all the shit. That takes a while. But
yeah, I do it one day out of 7. I do it on Sundays for about 90 minutes.
Yep.
And on Saturday night, like tonight, I'm editing videos. Like that's what I'm doing. It's not that hard of work. I'm going to hang out with a couple of buddies on Discord after this.
Yep.
But tomorrow I'll record. But even tonight, I'm thinking to myself, what's my schedule going to be like tomorrow? Okay, I want to wake up, go to church. I don't have to record Beard Laws now, so I'm going to go to church. I'm going to go get some breakfast. I'm going to come home, probably take a nap, wake up, then I'll record. But then I've got enough time to spend 2 or 3 hours with the kids before we have to go to bed. So there is that, like, do I have enough time? I want to make sure I get it in. I want to do this. I want to do that. But even then, it's like it's not that much time, but it is time consuming.
Yep.
And you have to eat. Everybody's kind of got to find that value. Is it worth the squeeze in their own life?
It is, and it's definitely not worth the stress. And the biggest thing for me is I've the kids are getting older. We're all over the place. And we sat down one night and I said, all right, listen, family, what's going to make us better as a family. Like, because, at one point I was recording 3, 4, 5 times during the week, having to rush back from here, can't go to dinner. And I'm like, this has got to stop. So we've all said, all right, Sunday, I'm watching football anyways. Let's do some podcasting. I do that, find time to edit at night after the kids go to bed like you. And I've learned a lot, and man, I love editing. I love doing the podcast. Like, I love it. And I don't make really anything off of it. I just love creating it. And it's gotten to the point where the kids, a lot of kids, they want to be YouTubers and all that crap, and they live these high expectations. And I showed the kids this, and we came up with our own little podcast that we do. And now we love it. We sit on a mic. It gives us time. We talk for maybe 20, 30 minutes about whatever they want. It's their show. I help them edit. They mainly do it. They're putting the work in, and it's fun. Like,
so you talked a little bit about, I want to go back just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You talked a little bit about Instagram, how they're not paying than they used to. Facebook, when, and this is not, these aren't just about, it's not about Meta. It's about any industry. It's about any platform out there that's trying to bring in the ad dollars. What do? Well, you can't just bring the viewers in. How do you bring the viewers in? You have to bring the creators in. To bring the creators in, you have to incentivize them. To incentivize them, you have to give them something they want to come, money. And so what Facebook did was they were like, okay, we're going to compete with TikTok in 2021, 2022, and we will offer you bonuses on your reels. We'll do short videos. Instead of calling TikToks, we'll call them reels. We'll offer you bonuses on reels based on views. And so thousands and thousands of dollars. People were hitting $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a month on views on Facebook. And they were saying, well, hey, wait a minute. This is 4 or 5 times what I'm making normally a month on my job. I'm going to quit. And then they do. And then Facebook, not because they're evil or something like that. That's a whole other conversation. Maybe they are, whatever. That's not a conversation. But because they're like, okay, now we've got the creators that have brought the viewers here. Now the viewers are here. We don't need to continue to incentivize these creators because the viewers are already here. Now they're part of their day is to go on Facebook. And now instead of scrolling TikTok, they're scrolling Facebook the same way with these reels. And so we don't have to pay them as much. Facebook has made that change, and they kind of come back a little bit with some other ways in paying people. In fact, Facebook pays pretty much the best other than YouTube when it comes to especially short time stuff. But that's the thing, is you have to be ahead of the curve. You don't know when it's going to end. You cannot rely on social media content creation to be the sole way that you're going to make money.
The peaks and valleys.
What's that?
The peaks and valleys of content creation.
The peaks and valleys. You cannot, not just to make money. We say that all the time, but you cannot rely on it to supply your meaning or your happiness. I had a boss tell me this 4 years ago when I wanted to jump into content creation. After my TikTok had hit it big and I was like 500,000, I had like 4 or 5 videos that had hit like 20 million in a week each. And I'm like on top of the world. I'm thinking nothing can be. He goes, you know what, Brandon? I don't know anything about social media. I can't tell you the first thing about what 1 million views are. I can't define what it means to be viral or what it means to be trending. But I will tell you this. Your children are going to be the only thing in your life that will bring you meaning like that. I mean, that will bring you true meaning. Those videos, those comments, those people who watch your videos will throw you away in a heartbeat. Your children, if you take care of them, will not. And so that's something that's really kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. And yet I do like doing content creation. I do like being a radio guy. It's some of the same little thing, you know, but there has to be a balance. And I don't do a lot of things great in life when it comes to balance, but one thing it is I've done pretty well so far is the whole family thing.
Yeah. I mean, like we've talked about, this is, the time we're recording tonight. It's late. Family's probably sleep. The kids are definitely sleeping. It's kind of, I always call it, it's dad time. It's time for we could do whatever. This is the same time, where I go to the studio, I grab a beverage, and I do some editing. I throw something up on the TV, a sports game or something, and just edit. And it's just my time to kind of de-stress, because you get too stressed. And man, the worst sometimes is as a parent where you just bring home that work, you bring home something, and it just kind of just comes out sometimes, and thankfully, it happens once in a while to the best of us or the worst of us, whatever we are. And thankfully my family's just like, you had a day, didn't you? And I'm like, my bad. I'm like, all right, let's go get some ice cream.
And I was driving home on Wednesday, Thursday. I don't remember what it was. But I got home. I got to leave work early. And I'm on my way home, and it hit me how different my life is now than it was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I would leave home, and I'm thinking, I cannot wait to go home and crack one of these open, or I cannot wait to go home and enjoy a nice herbal refreshment, or whatever the case may be. Now it's, I cannot wait to go home and spend time with those girls. I can't wait to go home and open the door and hear, Daddy. And these two little chunky faced girls run up to me and give me a hug and tell me how much they love me and they miss me. And then we get to go in the backyard and I get to turn the hose on and spray them down and, like play in the sun. I am old. I find joy in the things that I think are important now, which is good. And I'm kind of making fun of myself, but it's good. I mean, sometimes you have to slow down and really try to understand what is important, because you can get on that highway and you can go a little too fast. And sometimes you can slow down and then you're fucking 15, 20, 30, if not more miles past your where your destination is, and you're too far to slow down. I don't want to slow down when I'm 60 years old and my kids are grown up having their own families. I want to slow down now to where I can enjoy them and be a part of their family, because I grew up with parents that didn't care, and I don't want to be that. And I was telling in a conversation, I said, there's nothing more, again, comforting than to say to yourself, am I crazy? Because, like, what's the saying? If you're worried about you being crazy, you're probably not, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you're worried about you being a good parent, if you're going to sleep at night wondering, God, what could I have done better? Man, I failed today. Whatever the case may be, that's a good sign. You're doing something right, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Parenting. I mean, I even said to the kid, I was like, parenting is tough. You know what I mean? I know people put out dad playbooks and this and that, but geez, every scenario is different. It is tough. And kind of back to the growing up real quick. And we were talking with the beer and stuff. I had a brief conversation with like my drinking buddy, who thankfully is sober, and he is just kicking ass, my cousin. And I just kind of was talking to him, and I was like, man, it's been a day. I was like, just imagine us. We wouldn't have had these days back there. We would have been wasting our time, our paycheck, our money, sitting at a bar somewhere, drinking, pounding shots, having beer, not knowing that the day was nice, what was going on. And it's just like you said, just so thankful to be able to, yes, do I have a beer every once in a while? Yeah. But I'm not going to have 20 beers, 12 shots, and just rinse and repeat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so thankful that, he was able to get help. And with him getting help, really friggin' opened my eyes, man.
And that's what we need. We need somebody in our life that can do that. I mean, we talk about it all the time. How can you make an impact in your community? Well, you volunteer. You get involved. You get involved with a service or organization, or you volunteer, or you start doing something that will make an impact, or find people that will. Because when you find people and you surround yourself with people who are making a difference, you will become energized to do the same thing. It's a snowball effect. And so not only that, but you're saying, how am I making an impact? How is Billy's making an impact? I want to be like Billy. Well, the same thing is with what you're saying is when somebody starts that, that has lived their whole life, fill in the blank, and now they've taken a step back, and if they're able to change, why the hell can't I? It's like when I wrote my book, people are like, wow, I read everything that he went through and look what he's done. If he can do it, I can. Same with religion, man. I don't want to hear about what your God is or God isn't, or why mine is bad or whatever. Live your life the way that you think your God should be living your life. And if I can see that you are living a godly life, maybe I'll want to be more like you, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of the opposite too. You feel, I mean, it's easily said, but you surround yourself with shitty people, you're going to probably live a shitty life. You're going to be a shitty person. I mean, It is. I mean, it's way easier to say that, but getting older, man, we've learned some shit. We've learned some stuff. Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. And there's nothing worse than somebody who's been hurt by the world, because we all have in some way or measure, or by other people, who've then turned it around and says, you know what, I'm going to get mine. And I'm going to be whatever it takes in this world, doesn't matter good, bad, or otherwise, because in the end, I'm going to get what I want. And so I'm going to treat everybody else bad, because that you're throwing negativity, you're throwing evilness into the world, and you're only going to get that back.
Yep.
You have to be into the world. You have to throw into the world what you want, right? What you want to receive back. You'll be surprised. I mean, I remember being in foster care and in public schools, being a young man in the industry for the first time, and having just one person pat me on the back and say, God, you got something, you're going to be something someday. Or, hey, that was a good story. Or, man, you got a good voice. These people don't remember any of that. These people don't remember ever saying that, but it had such an impact on me that I remember it 10, 20, 15, 30 years later.
Yeah.
The same goes on the negative side. When your dad is a dad and you're annoying the hell out of him, and he says something like, God, you're such a dumb, stupid kid, get out of here. Or he backhands you, or whatever the case may be. They never remember that stuff.
No.
They never remember it, but you do, because that impact had such a big traumatic experience, had such a big impact on your life. There was a quote on Reddit I saw a couple of days ago that really stuck out to me. It says, yeah, your parents never remember it. The axe never remembers, but the tree never forgets.
Oh,
and
I like that.
That really hit me.
Yeah. Ooh,
no pun intended.
Man. Yeah. Oh, lots of pun intended. I've spent a lot of time lately splitting wood, and I find it so therapeutic. Man, yeah. I get out there. We have bonfires on the back porch all the time, and I'm just splitting wood, cutting wood. I'm like, this is it. And you know what? Back in the day, there's probably people out there that are like, I'm going to make some content about this. I'm going to be the guy that gets on my back porch and cuts wood all day. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to split it, and then I'm going to sell it. Thankfully, that's not me. I got too much.
What's great about our conversations, Matt, is when it's you and me, it doesn't always go like this, but sometimes it can. But if Euban were to be here, I don't know if it would have gone. Not that Euban isn't as deep as us or anything like that, but Euban is so lighthearted that it there would have been a lot more laughs. And so I appreciate our conversations. I hope it was still as funny for folks.
Dude,
watching.
I love it. No, it's good. I mean, how we're talking is how we're feeling, and that's exactly summarized kind of how the day was. And you don't know this either, but Euban, his Mother's Day, he stepped in a pothole and tore ligaments and completely destroyed his foot, and pretty much has to be in a boot or potential surgery for the rest of the summer.
Oh shit.
Not to, obviously we brought it up on, I think last week he told the full story, but more or less Mother's Day, wife wanted to go Old Navy. He's not here because they're on the family vacation. They're going to a beach or something in Florida, and the kid had fallen asleep. So he's holding the kid. They're walking, steps into a pothole funny. Didn't hurt for like 4 or 5 hours later. Went to the doctor the next day and tore some kind of ligament or whatever that I don't know anything about because I'm not a doctor. Either is he, but I was really impressed that he knew this ligament, or he made it up. I'm not even sure if it's a real ligament, but he sold me. Now he's in a boot. Well,
I hope he's all right.
He already said he's going to take it off. He's going to be swimming in the ocean and stuff. So, but yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a different vibe, and sometimes maybe it's a little bit heavier vibe, but it's our vibe, and that's the beauty of it. If we're sitting in the kitchen, we're sitting by a bonfire, we're sitting at a bar or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's why I love this name too, because we kept saying all the stuff with the kids. How many times has maybe your dad said, stay out of my fridge? Whether it's the beer fridge, definitely stay out of that, kids, especially if you're going to prom. But either way, don't touch my good leftovers. There's some stuff in there. You just stay out of my goddamn fridge. I mean, what are we trying to cool the kitchen with the fridge? That thing costs money, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I think that's a good episode. I think this is a good point to cut it and say our goodbyes. So we can't thank everybody enough. Greatly appreciate it. And for the first time ever, for you, I'm going to play the outro, which is also the intro. I'm going to play our theme song. All right. Can't thank everybody enough, Brandon. Appreciate you being flexible. Like with the podcast, I know you're super flexible and everything. Oh, and I wanted to tell you real quick before we go, Burley was listening to one of your employment live feeds, and he was like, dude, that dude is like amazing. That's what he does. Like, he was so just like, cause like he's never really listened to, you know what I mean? We were on the show a couple of times, but when it's pure chaos, it's not really like professional Brandon and, you know, where you could just sit there and talk. He's like, I didn't realize how goddamn good he is. I'm like, that's what triggered he needs to do an audiobook. And he's like, I would listen to the shit out of it. I'm like, cool. He's probably going to need more than like me and you to do it. So to go full circle. I said
kind of him to say. That was very, very nice.
Yeah. So he's been tuning in. He's like, he doesn't even say like, or, he's so good. And he goes, the voice, you aren't kidding. It's the best voice I've ever heard. I'm like, I know. He goes, that's the radio voice. He goes, I haven't really had to hear the radio voice. But yeah, that's what we got, Brandon. Can't thank you enough, brother. Anybody listening for whatever reason, can't thank you enough. Here is the stay out of my intro, outro, tunage.
Buckle up tight, it's gonna be alright. We're diving deep into your fridge where secrets hide. Mysteries of leftovers, the wonders inside. From moldy sandwiches to ancient yogurt jars, we cover the truth.